This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's worst 250 movies so you don't have to.
My name is Michelle St. Clair.
And I'm Abigail Ward.
And this week we watched Dumb and Dumberer When Harry Met Lloyd. Set back in the 80s when Harry met Lloyd in high school, where they crossed paths with a mean principal and a bunch of other outcasts much like themselves. Let's watch. So, Abby, just the other day, I saw a movie that I've been waiting for a long time, which was I Saw the TV Glow.
You've mentioned it for a while.
Yes. Well, that's because it came out in Sundance last year. And it came out in the States like 4 or 5 months ago, like ages ago. It's out on DVD already in the States.
Why did it take so long to come here?
Oh, because you know who would be able to have a good rant about that is honored friend of the podcast, Shane Anderson.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No one hates Australian distribution more than that guy. And to his defense, it's pretty abysmal at times.
You know, the whole stop the boats policy in Australia is actually about DVD distribution and film distribution.
Yeah.
They just don't want us to get movies anytime soon.
Scott Morrison never hated refugees. It was just DVD and Blu-ray. He works for big streaming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Netflix crony.
The fucker.
Yeah.
No, but I finally got to see it on Thursday at an advanced screening with honored friend of the podcast, Gaten Souza. I invited you as well, but you're busy.
Yeah. I didn't want to do anything. I was knackered. That was the problem.
I can't. That's busy. You have plans to rest.
I was like, oh, do I have to go? I could go across to the other side of the city and like spend 30 minutes battling through traffic, or I could stay home and do nothing.
We don't respect plans to do nothing as real plans, but they
are. They fully are. It's
rest is a real plan.
If you've designated the night to rest and recuperate, it is. Yeah. It's like it's plans to do nothing.
Especially since both of us had a gnarly week and like you needed the rest, baby.
It was so nice to have that night off.
Yeah.
The both of us. We didn't record.
We didn't.
We actually enjoyed ourselves that night.
I had the first day off in like 3 or 4 weeks and I was like, holy shit, what do I even do?
Well, you got to go see a film you've been waiting for ages.
So
how was it?
It was so good. So for people who don't know, movie made by trans filmmaker Jane Schoenbraun. It's their second movie after We're the World's Fair, All the Way to the World's Fair. I can't remember the exact name of the title. A micro-budget horror that sounds very good, but also not quite my kind of movie.
Yeah.
But this one, famous in part for having a lot more gender about it. You know, analog horror meets existential dysphoria horror.
That's what I've heard. It's like a dysphoria horror kind of thing. That's all I know about it.
It's interesting because I think going in, I knew that it was at least like vague isn't the right word, but like pulled back enough that, you know, some cis people were going, is it even about transness? Who knows? But also that it was a lot clearer than the classic, like, it's all an allegory, like The Matrix is like, oh, it's clearly an allegory. It's like, well, yeah, but it's also just an allegory for being an outcast and stuff.
Yeah.
Having watched it now, it's maybe look at how we're just rolling through the burp.
It tasted good. Tasted like the curry I had for lunch.
God, ew, curry burp sounds terrible.
Yummy.
It's maybe the clearest and most explicit trans movie I could see that never uses the word trans.
Yeah, right. What's the premise of it? What's the spoiler-free premise of it?
Spoiler-free premise. Lead character Owen lives in, you know, kind of small town America, classic. Meets Maddie, another girl who goes to the school, who partly introduces him to the TV show The Pink Opaque, which is like very sort of like Buffy-esque Monster of the Week sort of late night show that's like halfway between kids show and adult show sort of vibe. And you know, Maddie's obsessed with it, and Owen, after seeing glimpses of it, is immediately entranced by it. You know, like, but that very specific sort of like very analog, nostalgic, that 90s sort of TV where it could be a little scarier and a little more mythologically dense than TV was allowing anything else to be at that time. They continue to watch it together and like become obsessed with it, very clearly using it as a disassociative from their own lives. And then Maddie goes missing, and then we see Owen get older. And I'll say this is, you know, like semi-spoilers, Maddie does come back.
Okay.
And so it's sort of from there on like the horror of, is this world real? Is that world real? That sort of entrancing falling into the tape sort of vibes. It's a hard plot to describe.
Yeah.
I'll say.
I think a lot of horrors tend to be as well, or like, psychological thrillers or whatever. I think they're hard to explain.
Yeah, but a lot of it ends up getting into like, is this world real or is the pink opaque real? Sort of is like the broad plot of it.
Interesting. But
it ends up a lot more being about like, wow, is this character dysphoric? Or will they die if they don't transition? What is representing transition in this? Like that sort of...
What would you get out of 10? What would you give it? Give it out of 10. What would you give it?
But to reduce that down to a number, maybe like a 9.
Oh, wow.
I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think its ending... There's a lot of debate I've seen on like trans Twitter and stuff. I'm not on Twitter anymore at the moment. But I saw a lot of debate about whether the ending is bleak or hopeful, which I think is a silly debate because now having watched it, it's clearly both. It's kind of bleak for the main character, but you also feel like Jane Schoenbrunn is reaching through the screen and shaking you and going like, you don't have to end up like this.
Yeah, right.
You actually don't have to do this.
Okay.
Which makes it feel in some ways really hopeful. The third act was just like such a fine line to walk, and I think it really successfully does it.
Okay.
There's a point afterwards where I was recounting to Gaiden where I was like, oh, I really loved this bit and this bit, and that bit. And I was like, I think I just enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's only really like scary at a couple points, but those bits are like really well punctuated and needed.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack is fucking killer. So yeah, absolutely would recommend it.
What was Snail Mail like in it?
So Snail
How is she?
She plays one of the two main characters in the Pink Opaque.
Oh.
So she's like doing like a really intentionally hammy sort of performance.
Oh, wow.
That's a little like early 90s, a little Buffy-esque sort of performance.
Yeah.
And she's great in it.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. I love Snail Mail.
Yeah.
In 2018, I had my big Snail Mail phase.
Yes.
And I had bought Habits on vinyl and like a really expensive rare edition of it.
Ooh.
And we were staying in Melbourne on holiday because I didn't live here yet. And I bought it and my friend and I took a taxi and I left it in the backseat of the taxi. And I messaged him being like, did I forget my vinyl in the backseat of the taxi? And he was like, yeah, I can see it. And I was like, would you be able to drop it to me tomorrow? And he never responded.
Oh.
And I lost it. I was like, I'll meet up with you somewhere.
That's devastating.
And then I had to fly home. Without it.
That's really devastating.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It was like an $80 vinyl.
Well, she's really good in it. I will say, in particular, Bridget Lundy Payne is fucking phenomenal in it.
Is that the lead?
That's of the two meets. There's Maddie, played by Bridget Lundy Payne, and then there's Owen, played by Justice Smith.
Right.
Justice Smith is great and is getting a lot of acclaim, and it's well deserved. There's something about Bridget Lundy, like Bridget Lundy Payne needs to be so evocative that you're like both worried about them and entranced by them.
Yeah.
And it really works.
What was the budget?
Oh God. What
like
was
if
the
it was
budget?
like, it's an independent film, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, everyone keeps calling it an A24 movie, which is a thing that we've talked about is silly. Like they distributed it. They didn't make the movie.
Yeah,
Jane
yeah.
Schoenbrunn made the movie. This says 10 million.
Okay. Like more than I expected, but still very humble as a budget.
Yeah. Fully. Yeah. It is actually more than I expected to, but also having watched it, I'm like, I know where it went and it was well spent.
And then like, you know, we talk about movies on this podcast where they got $80 million to make trash.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's still quite a modest sum.
Yeah, but absolutely would recommend it. Like, I knew going in that because of some of the genre excesses of it, it wasn't going to be for me like a tearjerker in the same way that also trans movie I saw People's Joker kind of was towards the end.
Oh yeah, I saw you talking about People's Joker.
Well, I finally got the Blu-ray because it finally has gotten its distribution and release, so we should watch it sometime.
Yeah.
Because that was also fucking phenomenal, but very different sort of movie. They're both very weird movies, but I saw the TV Glow as more like a movie that is made like an art house sort of movie, but still like a movie. And then People's Joker is really weird and wild and like absolute micro budget made in their room sort of movie. And yet for that is wildly ambitious. It's like if a made in your house movie would cost the equivalent of $100 million, you know?
A good film I saw recently was Bird Eater, which was, I think I talked to you about it. It was the Australian horror film that was made on like $80,000.
Holy
truly
shit.
independent. And it was like 8 producers that came together and they were like, fuck it. we're never going to get the funding we want for this film. Let's all just put in 10 grand of our own and we'll make it on that.
Yeah.
And they fucking did. And it was really interesting. It was really good. Like, obviously, it's not like the kind of film I'd run around telling everyone to go see, but anyone that's interested in Australian filmmaking and wants to support it should go see it. Even if it's not your kind of film. I'm not a big horror person, but I went to go see it because I was like, I want to see what these 8 producers in Sydney managed to make. And it was a really impressive film. It actually was. There were obviously moments of that, like, kind of like, amateur Australian acting. Like, that, you know, a couple of moments of like, it feels a bit too, you know, like student filmy.
Yeah.
But then there are other bits of acting that are phenomenal. Like, there's this one particular actor in it. He plays a friend. It's the premise is that these kids are going off to a bachelorette party or bachelor's party, and there's this really unhealthy dynamic between the bride and the groom that is coming out that they're seeing. Like, there's a lot of coercive control in their relationship, and it begins to morph out of that. And so it's a cool insight into the idea of like control within relationships, and it's also, I think, looking into like toxic masculinity within relationships as well. But there's this one guy that plays a friend of the groom's, and he is just like on fire the whole film. Like, people in the cinema were cracking up from some, because it was also quite funny. It was really strong in terms of comedic
An Australian
timing,
movie?
editing. I know.
Whoa.
But he was he was really electric. I remember watching it just thinking, I hope that guy takes off because he deserves it. He feels like he feels like an Australian Tom Hardy or something. Anyway, that was exciting. So, you know, yeah, if you want to see some Australian cinema,
hell yeah,
and you want to support some Australian horror, and you've got a free night, or you want to capitalize on a cheap Monday or Tuesday session, go see it.
Well, you and I should do that. We'll also pitch our money together. You pitch in $10,000. I'll pitch in all of my savings. We'll have $10,030.
Yeah,
it'll be perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Because
cute that you think I have
$10,000, right?
That's adorable.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll have.
I've got a mortgage, Michelle.
So we'll have $60.
I've got a mortgage.
Yeah. So yeah, 30.
Sorry, I just realized we have to pay strata fees. Another $300 to strata.
Yikes.
It's pretty good for strata.
Yeah.
Anyway,
for strata.
For strata.
So, you know, speaking of 2 powerhouse performances, this week we watched Dumb and Dumberer When Harry Met Lloyd.
Yeah.
Last week, I think I said I've seen this before. That was wrong. I think I was just thinking of the original movie.
Right.
I have never seen this before in my life.
Whereas I knew I had seen this before, but I underestimated how many times I've seen it. Because as I was watching it, I realized that there was this part deep down in my brain that not just remembered the lines, but could prophesize the lines coming.
Dear
which means
Lord.
I must have watched it. I must have watched it like 5 times or more when I was a kid, because I knew that I had probably rented it from Blockbuster, done one of those 7 movies for $11 or whatever kind of deals. It was like a ritual. Every like Friday, my brother and I would go down to Blockbuster, would be able to choose 7 movies each, and we had to squabble over the last one. I mean, like, it's an uneven number. It was shit for 2 siblings.
Yeah.
But it was like $11. You rent it for 7 days. And I swear I must have done Dumb and Dumberer twice, because I loved Dumb and Dumber so much. I was like, surely it'll be great. But as a movie, as a kid, I really liked it.
Wow.
And so watching it, I was like, it was almost like, it was like, you know, when people bury trauma and then, you know, there's like a smell or a shot or something that will remind them,
yeah,
and will open up this weird door in their brain. That's what was happening to me. I was like,
Well, then I think you really would like I Saw the TV Glow.
Yeah.
It's a movie that delves into that feeling quite a lot.
There you go. But there was a couple of bits there's a bit where Lloyd, I mean, like, first impressions, like, obviously this movie sucks.
Yeah.
But it's confusing for me because then I remember how me as a kid loved it.
Sure.
So I'm like, what? I don't know how to feel. Like, it really tickled me.
Do you think you as a kid had good discernment?
No. But also sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I knew that Goodyear was shit, but I loved Dumb and Dumberer. So I don't know. There was this bit in the film where Lloyd's having a fantasy that he's surrounded by women, and there's a song that goes, Lloyd, super cool, Lloyd.
Oh, yeah,
and I was like, oh my God, I remember me and my brother used to sing that all the time. Like, that's to the point it was.
There was one genuine stone cold joke towards the beginning that I thought was really good, which was so he, you know, Harry pulls out this map to the school that's been drawn for him, and it looks like a pirate map, and it's got the lines, it's got the big X at the school, and he's like, this is the way to school, right? And Lloyd's like, well, you know, I've been on the campus a lot and I've never seen that big X before, but other than that, it's perfect. And I'm like, That's funny.
I think it had a
funny
couple of
that
moments like that.
yeah.
I feel like the actual funnier moments were between Eugene Levy playing the principal, and that woman from SNL that plays I can't remember her name, but I know she's in SNL, but she plays the woman that's helping him scam the school in the film. She's really funny. I think she's got really good timing, and their stuff together I thought was kind of funny.
Sherry O'Terry.
Yeah.
Sherry O'Terry.
Yeah.
That's it.
She's in SNL, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's pretty good in it. Bob Saget was pretty funny in it.
Oh, and that's the thing. Yeah, Bob Saget. I remembered that as a kid, there's this bit where he finds shit in his bathroom, and he was like, "There's shit everywhere. There's shit on the walls. There's shit on the toilet. There's shit everywhere." And it just keeps going. And I remember thinking it was so funny as a kid, and to be honest, as an adult, I kept laughing at it.
Yeah, it wasn't
because
too
he just
bad.
kept going.
Especially at the end where he then runs into Harry. This time instead of chocolate, it's mud, and he's like,
"There's shit on my car."
And they're just like walking away from him while in the background.
There's poo everywhere. There's shit all over my shit everywhere. Like he just keeps taking it.
That was pretty funny.
It's just silly, and it keeps going.
Because the inherent problem with these movies is not that the joke writers are untalented. It's that it'll be a talented comedy writer. That's why they've been hired in the first place. But the game of the characters, the hook of what makes the characters funny, gets old after like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So to make it 90 minutes long means that it inevitably just gets really boring.
Yeah.
After the first act, and so it just doesn't work as a movie.
It is a bit boring, but also
I get old of their dumb shtick.
Yeah, they're too dumb in this as well. I will say in the original, Dumb and Dumber, they're stupid, but they also seem like they could function. Whereas in this, they are just so unbelievably stupid that they can't seem to function whatsoever. Like they can't get somewhere. They can't find this place.
One of my first notes was like, I think these guys genuinely need a carer.
Well, that's the thing. The whole thing is about how like they join a special needs classroom because the school is trying to scam them. But like in Dumb and Dumber, they just seem silly. But in this, they do seem like
they need to be in a special needs class.
Exactly, like they do belong in a special needs class. So then you feel kind of weird laughing at it, where you're like, they do just seem a bit.
You know what? Let's get into the key details. So this came out in 2003. The director was Troy Miller, he'd done like a whole bunch of like TV shows and stuff. I noticed that he had directed a lot of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
But not many movies, and the movies he directed weren't very good. It was starring Eric Christian Olsen, who I particularly recognized as Vaughn from Community.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he surprised me in this. I was going in expecting him to be bad because I was unimpressed with him in Community. He does not do a bad Jim Carrey.
Sometimes he does.
I think he's better as a Jim Carrey ripoff than Derek Richardson is as a Jeff Daniels ripoff.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's definitely hitting a lot of Jim Carrey notes, but there are some bits where I'm like, it feels too much like a Jim Carrey impression now. Like you're just not quite hitting the mark.
I think it's tricky when you're specifically meant to be playing a character that was played by Jim. You kind of need to do at least a bit of the Jim Carrey impression.
It's a tough gig.
Returning actors, though, Luis Guzman, who was in The Adventures of Pluto Nash and Beverly Hills Chihuahua, and Lynn Shay, who interestingly was also in the original. She was, I can't remember the name of the character, Margie Neugebauer, who I literally don't even remember in this movie.
Margie Neugebauer?
Yeah.
What?
Yep, she plays Margie Neugebauer. Yeah, I know. I don't really remember her in this either.
Yeah.
But she was in it.
Okay.
And she was also in The Grudge, Critters 3, and Ouija.
Sure.
Do you remember in Ouija? Do you remember any of Ouija? There was like the old woman. She's the old woman in Ouija.
Ouija was a low point for me.
She's the old... Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
I just remember there being like some pool with a tarp over it. And at that point, I was like, oh, shut up.
Just remember there was like a big old creepy house with a staircase and there was some blonde chick.
Sure. Yeah, that narrows it down.
Yeah.
Budget was $19 million. It made 39.3.
Oh.
Kind of a modest success, especially after like DVDs and stuff, you know? Like, they made that back.
How long had it been between this and the first Dumb and Dumber?
Like 9 years. The first one came out in 1994. You were born. And
right.
the first one was the Farrelly brothers.
Yeah.
Just for anyone who didn't know, who I know because they did Something About Mary, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, which was one of my mum's favorites. So I've seen that movie like 20 times.
But they didn't do this.
No, they didn't do this.
Interesting.
They weren't involved with it at all, But I think Peter Farrelly did give his blessings.
Yeah.
Was the thing that he said. Yeah, Peter Farrelly has never seen the prequel. He went on record saying that he holds no ill will against the film and wished the filmmakers well on it. I mean, if you're one of the Farrelly brothers, I don't think you're precious about your quality.
Did they come back for Dumb and Dumber 3?
Dumb and Dumber 2.
Is that what it is?
Well, because it's Dumb and Dumber 2, but it's just spelled T-O. So it's like the wrong 2.
Right. Okay.
So it's just Dumb and Dumber 2.
Oh.
Which I think
Hate it.
is not a bad title. It's better than Now You See Me Too.
It's not great to say, though.
It's not great to say. No,
Yeah.
no. But you could just call it Dumb and Dumber 2, I guess. Because technically it is Dumb and Dumber 2. I guess it's 3 because it's the third movie, but this is a prequel.
Yeah. Did they come back for it?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think so. I do have an interesting thing about Dumb and Dumber 2. Because the sequel came out in 2014, so 20 years after the original. And yeah, the Farrellys came back for it. This isn't part of my trivia, but I did want to say it because the sequel also had a thing about the United States Department of Justice charged that the money used to produce the movie was stolen from a Malaysian government investment fund. Red Granite Pictures denied knowingly accepting stolen money. The prosecutors also filed a forfeiture complaint in federal court to seize the rights of ownership to Dumb and Dumber 2 as well as to the 2015 film Daddy's Home. And Red Granite settled for $60 million. But that was just insane reading about Dumb and Dumber and be like, actually, this was stolen from the Malaysian government.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. Here's the overview. After years of homeschooling, Harry Dunn is finally being sent to a regular high school, whereupon he quickly meets Lloyd Christmas, who has been adopted by the school janitor and lives on campus. Lloyd tries to show Harry the ropes, but is quickly subjected to bullying. Meanwhile, the principal, Collins, has a plan to embezzle money from the school so he and the lunch lady, with whom he is having an affair, can buy a condo in Hawaii. He has agreed to the terms from a former special needs student to set up... Special needs is the term they keep using. I don't like it as a term. It's never the term we used for my sister growing up. It feels very American in a lot of ways.
Special needs?
Special needs.
I thought we used it back in like 10 or 15 years ago. They used it at my high school. We had a special needs high school classroom.
We always just said the special class or disability class, but we never said special needs specifically. I don't know.
Does needs make it worse than just saying special?
I've known at least one other person with Down syndrome who talked about how she really didn't like the term special needs because she was like, my needs are regular needs. I just have more of them. And I was like, that's a fair thing.
Well, it's definitely the terminology they used. We had a special needs class in circa 2010.
I know. I guess I was just clarifying to the audience of like, this is not my terminology. This is what the movie is rooted in.
Yeah, the listeners are just waiting to pounce on you.
Just fucking waiting to go. Get me. To set up a special needs class in exchange for $100,000. They sign up Harry and Lloyd, who in turn go around recruiting more students who they think would be a good fit, including students like Turk, the school bully, who see it as an opportunity to blow off work. Jessica Matthews, a student reporter who has attracted the romantic affections of both Harry and Lloyd, is suspicious of this class and tries to investigate. However, Collins can tell she is on the lead and kidnaps her, trying to find where she's hidden his paper, which, unbeknownst to both of them, were stolen by Harry, who mistook the chest they were in for pirate booty. The other kids in class discover the papers when Harry and Lloyd try to decorate a parade float with it and decide to use the upcoming fair to display the evidence of Collins' crimes. Matthews thanks the two of them and goes to her boyfriend, and Harry and Lloyd promise to never let a girl come between them again.
Yeah.
The end.
The end.
I feel like we don't have many parades in Australia.
I went to a parade.
Yeah?
At Easter.
That's cool.
Blackwood, which is the tiny little town I got married in, they have an Easter parade every year.
Did they have floats?
Yeah.
That's
cool.
What
made it so sweet. Like they had these they were very like ramshackle and you know.
Well, you said it was in Blackwood, right?
They were on the back of trailers.
Sure.
And so people were just driving. Yeah. But it's up the main street of Blackwood. And it goes for like all of 20 minutes because there's not much.
Yeah, but still.
But Claude's whole family had their own float.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
His whole extended family were like
I just feel like in American movies, I always see them making a float or there's stuff about floats.
It's
if there's a
American.
parade.
It is definitely more American.
Right?
We have Mardi Gras.
Yeah, but I guess there's floats there.
Yeah, massive floats.
Yeah. But I guess a lot of them tend to feel less like I don't know, American floats.
Dinky die?
Well, But American floats seem to often have like constructed figures.
Yeah, they have like the Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah, whereas
whatever.
like the Mardi Gras here, the float will usually just be like a vehicle with some decoration
Or like
and
a
people
truck.
on it.
Yeah,
Or
like a
truck,
big truck
you know?
with a tray. Yeah.
There won't be an attempt to build a person out of wood.
Yeah, I would say if we had the most extravagant parade we would have in Australia is Mardi Gras. And so that's the top for us. It's probably nothing in comparison.
That's the fucking peak,
That's
baby.
the peak. I reckon.
And yet
parades
no
are
wood people.
big in Eastern America because I don't think they have parades much in the West of like California, but I think that it's like a very New York thing.
Yeah, it does feel very New York and Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
Like in Ferris Bueller.
Yep.
Another movie set in Chicago. Yeah, nailed it. Get on now.
That bit of Ferris Bueller's was so weird. I don't know where John Hughes was going with that.
Yeah, I really did. I wasn't so sure about that one.
It's like out of left field.
Yeah.
It's a very alien moment where he's just like splayed open by this horrible thing in the middle of the Macy's Day Parade.
And he birthed several newborns in that scene.
He did.
Just
They
where
were
a
all
lot of the screaming
mini
came from.
Buellers.
Yeah, but then they got up and started doing the twist and shout.
But then they also fucked off because they wanted a day off.
What I was impressed by was how it was no CG, all practical.
Yeah, and what I loved is that they also just dropped that storyline and then they just resumed the rest of the film.
Yeah. It seems like just a thing for that scene.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Love it.
Great.
Part of my childhood.
Yeah, same.
I will say Dumb and Dumber genuinely was very much a part of my childhood. I watched that film non-stop to the point where I remember all the songs on the soundtrack. I remember all the lines. It was just a real favorite. I liked the...
Was it good? Is it good?
The original?
Yeah.
I think it's genuinely a really good comedy.
Okay.
I would actually back it 100%. I would watch it again right now.
This is my realization that I have only seen the original and that was the thing I saw on a bus, which I did enjoy, but I was also like 10 and on a bus. So like,
yeah, I don't know why, but I assumed you would also have been a Dumb and Dumber fanatic, but no.
I haven't seen it apart from that.
Yeah, I love it, genuinely.
Okay.
I'm willing to I could go home and watch it tonight and I'd have a great time.
Yeah, okay.
I think there are some genuinely good moments
We're
in
meant
it.
to record some other episodes after this. Do you want to just watch Dumb and Dumber instead?
That'd be so good.
That would be so good.
I wish we could.
I mean, we haven't, it's like almost half an hour in and we haven't started talking about this one.
Well, I wanna. No, look. There were some lines that I remember from my... You know that bit where... There's a bit where Lloyd is like storming off from, I think, Jessica, and he's like, and another thing. And then he keeps coming back and he's like, you just...
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny as a kid.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
This is what I mean. Vaughn was not doing a bad job. I think he was funnier than Derek Richardson.
He was.
Derek Richardson did not make me laugh.
Derek Richardson is so familiar to me, but I don't think he's been in anything that I've actually seen.
We can look and find out.
He's so familiar, but you know what I think he looks like? He kind of looks
out.
like Patrick Wilson, and I think that's why I'm getting confused.
He's Patrick Wilson.
He was Raoul in the 2004 Phantom of the Opera. He played like a real heartthrob circa 2004.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Oh, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, do you see what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, no, but I see where you're coming from.
It's like if he was Patrick Wilson, he'd be like an out of shape Patrick Wilson, you know?
Sure.
For a moment, I was like, is that an out of shape Patrick Wilson? Like a chubby, puppy, fat, like Patrick Wilson, but it wasn't.
Well, I mean, you might have seen Derek Richardson in the movie Hostel or even Hostel Part 2, or perhaps the romantic American comedy drama television series Men in Trees.
No.
Or Bring It On Again.
Oh, maybe. Who do you play in that?
Party Guy.
Probably not. Probably not then. Don't think I did.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, he was that one party guy and Bring It On 2.
Oh my God, I love Party
Guy. My recollection isn't that good. Like, it's good, but it's not that good.
That's normally what I'm like with like NBC sitcoms.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of times I watch something and I'm like, that guy was on that one episode of that show.
Yeah, I find that... Oh, yeah, no, you go on.
Well, like the woman who played the Chinese character in this, which was horrifically racist. She's also from an episode of Community.
Let's just talk about this. There was definitely a lot of hate against Asians in this film. Like, there were too many jokes at just Asians' expense.
It wasn't like a light racist joking. It was hatred.
It was. And like at a certain point, you know, you realize that her character, it's revealed that she can speak English perfectly. She was born in America and she just lets people talk down to her because they like it. And, you know, that's kind of like a fun subversion, but really the whole film is just them being like, Ching Chong.
Yeah.
And they
call her Ching Chong.
They fucking hate her.
But then there's the weird inverse where like Turk starts genuinely learning Mandarin.
Which is quite sweet.
Which is kind of sweet.
And then when she's like, oh, I just, you know, people like it more. Do you want me to be Ching Chong again and do the accent? And he's like, yeah. And then they do. That was the inoffensive bit for me. It was more all the stuff before that where the main characters fully didn't like her.
No, yeah. They were really quite upset at her.
Yeah, for being Chinese.
But she was in an episode of Community where she plays the Red Dragon, #1 moist towelette manufacturer in China, who then is dating Pierce, and Jeff is worried that she's trying to take Pierce for his money. However, she makes a ton of money as well.
I think that must be where I recognize her from. She was so familiar the whole time as well. And one of the girls, there's a skater guy in the film. His girlfriend is played by a girl from the Gilmore Girls. That was huge.
Oh.
She's a very minor part in the Gilmore Girls.
We could have recognized Party Guy from Bring It On Again.
To be fair, if there was like any Party Guy in Can't Hardly Wait, I'd be like, oh, I recognize that guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I've watched that film so many times.
Yeah.
Also, have you watched Gilmore Girls?
No. You showed me the first season of it, and I didn't finish.
Fair. I mean, it's not like it's an acquired taste, but it's very twee. Yeah. And you need to be in the mood for like twee girls, North America.
I enjoyed it. It was just more than anything that there are 40-minute episodes of 20-episode seasons, and I was like, oh boy. Yeah. It just felt like a big undertaking. Yeah,
it's a lot of TV. And sometimes it can go a bit slowly, but really you watch it because there's so much food and everyone's intelligent, hyper intelligent. They talk really quickly. They have all the best references to things. It's Amy Sherman Palladino's like fantasy of how she could have been as a teenager that she puts into Rory. But unfortunately you end up hating Rory because you're like, you're not a real thing. Like, you're not a real person. Yeah. You're not a real girl. Like, this is just someone's fantasy.
Isn't a big plot point that she is being protected from their family's money, and then as soon as she gets access to it, she's kind of a cunt?
That's kind of the whole thing, is that like the whole premise is that her grandparents have been out of her life.
Now we're just talking about Gilmore Girls.
Anything but. Her grandparents have been out of her life. She's 16. Her mother's 32. Her mother had her when she was 16, obviously. And now that she wants to put Rory through a good college, like through a good high school. And so she has to get in touch with her parents to be able to send her to this school. And the deal is, we'll put Rory through this, high school if you come over for dinners on Friday. And that's like that's how the whole show begins.
Sure.
But it's very sweet. It's very nice. It's like if you want like a real feel good North New England kind of vibe. It's nice.
Okay.
You can't get that out of Dumb and Dumber.
No. I did have a couple specific complaints that just bothered me. One was there's a bit where we see Lloyd driving like a floor polisher, and it's like spraying water? Or was it wax?
It's a waxer.
It's a waxer. So spraying wax behind him?
It might.
Because it looked like water.
I don't think the props department were too finicky.
Well, it confused me because everyone walking behind him then immediately slipped. But he was driving it just like on concrete.
Well, I guess he's waxing concrete, so it's just really slippery.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
Don't you get it? Don't you get it? I will say it was kind of funny where he pulls up to Jessica's house, the popular girl that they both kind of have a crush on.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know, sweet ride. And it just cuts to the waxer still kind of going by itself.
Yeah,
it was kind of funny.
That was kind of fun.
Also, there's a bit where he's standing there and he's trying to rehearse his lines, and then you realize Jessica's actually just in front of him waiting for him to get it out.
Yeah.
That was a funny premise, but if they just edited it a bit different, it would have been way funnier.
Yeah, a lot of it was not very tight.
Yeah, exactly. The editing kept letting it down.
It's because of the thing I was saying earlier. So I used to, when I was a teenager, really enjoy landmark web series Jake and Amir, starring Jake Hurwitz and Amir Blumenfeld of College Humor fame, right? It's very funny and relies very much on especially the Amir character, but later also the Jake character being annoying and a little dumb, right? It works really well as like these 2-minute bursts. It's like 2 minutes. It can be tightly edited. You kind of have one joke and then the joke turns either as the final punchline or at the midpoint, right? And then you just kind of cut out when it starts being interesting. Great. Perfect. This is 100 fucking minutes, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, at a certain point, they're like clearly padding out by including all of the let's do some lines. And I'm like, you gotta tighten this up, man. You gotta. Also, it's Dumb and Dumberer. You couldn't make this a 70-minute like
It didn't need to be that long.
It did not need to be this long.
You know the brain freeze scene? I really remembered that from my childhood once it started. I think that's what began to bring back all the memories of watching it. But there's a scene where they're drinking some slushies, which frankly, they just look like cold water. Like they have the consistency of water, not a slushie.
No, not at all.
And they're drinking it and it gives them brain freezes. And they really show a visualization of it like going up the straw into the brain and freezing over. As a kid, I was like,
brain freezes featured so prominently in so many like 2000s things for kids, especially.
Like it was like a new phenomenon.
Yeah. No one had ever had a brain freeze before.
Brain freezes are fucking painful. When you go through a brain freeze, you're like, this is agony for like 2 seconds.
It must have been like a slushy craze or something of that period. So
when was the last time you had a slushie?
Well, I don't have them as much more than anything. They don't have sugar-free flavors.
Yeah.
And I mostly have sugar-free drinks these days.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I did have a slushie a couple months ago.
How was it?
Pretty good.
Pretty nice?
You know, those things are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's because I was having a bad day. I had to go fill up petrol and I went, you know what? I'm going to have a slushie. And you know what? It did improve my day a little.
Do they have frozen Coke Zeros? Because I'd drink the shit out of that.
I don't know.
Sugar-free slushies.
I don't know. Every time that like McDonald's or KFC does like a frozen Coke, it's just frozen Coke. It's not Coke Zero.
I'm going to look it up and maybe go see if I can get one on the way home today. And I'll report back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll figure this one out.
Yeah.
We're on the case.
We'll say this was a movie. Normally when we do these movies, we've talked about this. It's like a lot of people are operating still as very talented people in the industry. It's mostly like the writing and direction that lets it down. Or sometimes it's a weird performance that might even be miscast. It's still a talented actor, you know? This is one of the few times where I think the production design department and the props have a lot to be blamed because as you said, like the slushies were just fucking water.
Yeah.
There's a bit where they're like throwing petrol around, but it's all clear.
Yeah.
And so it didn't look, I was like, is it water? What is this? There's a lot of it was very confusing. And I will say there was one bit that really got me. So the principal kidnaps the reporter girl, who I do kind of think the central gag of she doesn't really get that they have a crush on her and then she just goes to her boyfriend at the end.
Yeah, or even if she does get it, she doesn't care. She's like, they can have a crush on me, I don't care. But like, I have a boyfriend. I don't give a shit.
I did think that was at least amusing.
And she was also not just she's just like a hot, popular girl. She was actually like, I want to be a journalist. I want a good scoop. She actually had motivations outside of them, which made her not like a shit character.
It managed to narrowly sidestep the woman who comes between them trope, which is often quite annoying.
Yeah.
But there's a bit so the principal fully kidnaps her, like fully in the car.
It's disturbing when he's like, "You won't be going home tonight." Like they're not expecting you back. I would think I'm getting raped by the principal tonight.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, now what? What's your plan after that?
You've convinced my parents that I'm not going to be home tonight. I'm in danger.
Yeah. What's he going to do after that day finishes?
It made my skin crawl a bit. And she's so calm about it, just being like, like, leave me here. Don't worry about it. Like, I've got this under control. And I was like, I would be like, call the police.
Also, we don't really see her get out of it.
She doesn't want to.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, she just is kind of there at the end.
It's like the next day and then he's just at like the parade. Yeah. And I'm like, where did she go? What happened to her?
We find her body in a trunk in the river.
To like hands bound, bobbing in a river.
Because that's what I mean. Like once you find the information, what's he gonna do with her? He can't let her go.
I know. Look, they did leave out really important bits of plot in this film.
I think that would have been a fun turn though, if the midpoint is that the principal kidnaps her and then ends up killing her and has to go, what do we do?
Yeah.
And, Harry and Lloyd are solving her murder.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a more fun movie.
Yeah.
Terrible for her though.
Do you remember how in the original oh my God, I was going to say Cheaper by Miles.
Cheaper by the dozen?
Cheaper by the dozen. Dirty.
Dumb and
Dumb
Dumber?
and Dumber. Oh my God.
The original of this movie?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, Cheaper by Miles, the first one of Dumb and Dumber.
Cheaper by dozen. No, Dumber by dozen. Dumb and Dumber. Like, honestly, that's the really slow route my brain was taking. In the original Dumb and Dumber, the woman that gets between them is like this redhead woman, and the whole premise, I don't know if you remember, is that
there's some like ransom
she'd
money.
leave some ransom money.
Yeah.
Lloyd is like, she forgot her briefcase, and then they've like fucked up the drop off.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really strong, fun premise.
Yeah.
Which is like, they're on a road trip. They need to get this money back to her, but there's also these bad guys tailing them. This had no premise.
No,
it was
not
just
really.
that this principal was scamming the system through a special needs class.
Once they got into the class,
was it.
I checked the time and I saw it was 20 minutes, and I was like, so what's the rest of the movie?
Nothing.
And the answer is nothing.
It's just nothing. It's just Jessica wants to figure out what's going on. She has motivation.
Yeah.
And then Harry and Lloyd are just there.
Yeah, they really
end.
are just sort of there for the movie.
Yeah.
They don't even really solve it.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to hear some trivia?
I do.
IMDb trivia.
This one I thought was interesting because it was kind of a thought that I had too. Eric Christian Olsen, Vaughn/Lloyd, was repeatedly denied the role of Lloyd because the producers thought he was too good looking. It was only after seeing some home video footage of Eric in full makeup improvising a scene with the already cast Derek Richardson that they gave him the role.
Nice. I mean, he looks goofy because, he's got like silly hair, really. That's it. And he does silly faces.
But I get it. Like seeing him in other things, I'm like, if you told me that he's Lloyd Christmas, I'm like, what are you talking about?
When you remember what he looked like in Community, you're like, yeah, no, he's actually a very traditionally handsome man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classically handsome.
Yeah.
Early on, South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone were lined up to write the prequel for $1.5 million. They later decided to not work on the project and returned all of the money to New Line.
Oh, I would have loved to see what they would have done, to be honest.
Yeah.
I actually fucking loved South Park when I was younger.
Oh, same.
Such a big South Park
Same.
person. I had it on my school laptop and I just watched it nonstop.
It deeply frustrates me nowadays, but like, hey, I'm not going to ever say it was a bad show because it was a great show.
That's the thing. It's always been edgy.
Yeah.
Like, always. It's always done fucked up shit. It's always made fucked up commentary. But then also, sometimes it makes really good commentary and takes a really good approach. And I think that's why I liked South Park a lot, is that I actually always thought that at least whatever it was, the opinions that they presented in the show were like fully authentically theirs. And I didn't mind if it was like, it was always edgy. And I think you just have to swallow that pill when you watch it.
No, totally. I think yeah, they spray sometimes a little too widely. And I don't even mean the trans stuff, which is obviously fucking awful, but also like, they were they were up there saying Al Gore was silly for being concerned about climate change. And I'm like, come on, guys.
They've had really bad takes, and then they've had really good takes.
Yeah.
And then they're just also really, just inherently, like, just really funny, fucked up people as well.
Yeah. No, it's still a good show and was such a big part of my childhood.
Same. It's like when you're 12 and you watch that Man Bear Pig episode, like, just something changes in your brain chemistry. You're like, this is the funniest thing I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Man Bear Pig.
I really loved the one where Cartman goes to the future because he's trying to wait for a wee. He like freezes himself so that he could just wake up, but he accidentally goes 500 years in the future.
Yeah.
And so like otters have evolved and stuff.
I always thought my favorite character, now we're just talking about South Park, my favorite character in South Park was 100% Randy Marsh. Randy was my favorite.
Randy's
Stan's
great.
dad.
I hear in the later seasons he kind of becomes the main character.
Does he?
Because they clearly love him too, and also they approached his age more so.
My favorite bit is when they're all playing Guitar Hero and Stan's like, keep it down, guys. I don't want my dad to find out. He's just going to try and show off. And then you just see Randy come in. He's like, you guys playing Guitar Hero? And it cuts to him just playing like Carry On My Wayward Son. It's great.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
And the little baseball episode as well, where he just keeps getting into fights at each game.
There really was this like sweet spot of like the 3rd through 10th season that was really good.
Maybe I'll rewatch South Park. Dumb and Dumber, South Park. That's my night.
Here's the last piece of trivia, which is actually a weirdly written goof, but no music this time.
Okay.
No music this time. Jessica's father must have little to no sense of smell to confuse the chocolate from poop, as human excrement has a far more potent and pungent odor to the point where its foul and offensive smell would have been detected well before opening the bathroom door. Not to mention, the sweet sugary scent of the cocoa used in the chocolate would have become immediately apparent with that much of it spread around the room.
Right on, brother. You keep leaving those IMDb comments. You follow your bliss.
Follow your bliss.
This
man.
shit makes you happy to write.
You know what? You're right. You got him.
Technically, there's nothing wrong with what you just said.
Absolutely not.
There is something wrong with the fact that you made the choice to say it, but nothing wrong with what you said.
You fucking got him though.
You got it, man.
Didn't hear some reviews?
Yeah.
Reviews!
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever, I do. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah.
So this
Yeah, I do. I would like to.
So this movie
I would actually love to hear some.
All right, gotta hand it to you. This movie has 10% on Rotten Tomatoes and 3.4 on IMDb. Richard Roper of eBay and Roper, I couldn't find an eBay review, but Richard Roper said it has a flat and deadly aura, and it's not even gutsy enough to be sexy or potentially offensive.
It's true. It's just blah.
It is just kind of nothing. Here's the first IMDb review titled "Underrated Comedy Genius -- or Mental Dysfunction ellipses"
Whoa.
by Pedro the Lion. Now, mainstream critics and audiences alike are pathetic at this point in history. Accepting humor and just having a good time is hard with many, especially when some are trying to maintain a grand reputation. This is the case with the overall acceptance of this riotous film. A campy plot and set of jokes couldn't possibly lose a viewer's interest, could it? I mean, people laugh at Family Guy, a show with humor clearly as subjective and ridiculous as that of Dumb and Dumberer. Even blue-collar humor is more cliched than this. I admire the entire good mood of this film. I felt great after viewing it. I also haven't laughed that hard in an unnamed amount of time. Don't believe the criticism. The only reason I can think of for those types of comments is that the lead roles aren't played for the same actors. Yet, who would want to see 40-somethings playing teenagers? 10 out of 10.
Nice.
Once again, a review taking a wide sweep at the world. Here's another one, though, titled I Adore This Movie by BSB Girl 7. This is my all-time...
Not like bank cereal.
No, just... Yeah, your BSB.
What's your BSB girl?
BSB Girl 7.
I'm a little BSB girl.
7.
What are your 6 digits?
7. This is my all-time favorite movie. I can't see how it can be in the bottom 100. I guess you have to have a little thing called sarcasm to understand and enjoy it. Dumb and Dumberer is funny on so many levels. Not only can it make a sad person laugh, but it has sarcasm and wit as well as potty humor. I pity people who do not like this movie. If you have not seen this movie, you must go and see it as soon as you can. Call the local Blockbuster or whatever you go to rent your movies and ask them if they have it in stock. You must rent it.
I did.
Dumb and
I
Dumberer.
fucking did. I rented it 10 times.
Dumb and Dumberer is one piece of work, I must say. If you don't like it, you have no sense of humor. 10 out of 10.
Kind of right. I wrote that. Circa 2003.
I just love Dumb and Dumberer as one piece of work. Here is also the second review that BSB Girl 7 left.
Oh, wow. She's passionate.
This is by far one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my entire life. It is so funny, and there are little parts that if you pay attention to, you will laugh so hard, especially look at the body language. That is one of the funniest parts of this movie. I recommend it. 10 out of 10.
Nice.
And here's the last one I've got. What Were You Expecting? By Scruffy Cub 2-1.
Scruffy Cub.
Scruffy Cub 2-1. Or 2-1.
The ratio of Scruffy to Cub.
Yeah, exactly. Scruffy to Cub 2-1.
It's really scruffy.
Really scruffy.
Not much Cub.
Still a hearty amount of Cub, I'd say.
Like half the amount.
No, a third. Well, half of the amount of total Scruffy,
Yeah,
which is the
half
third
of the
total.
amount of Scruffy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's a negligible amount of Cub. If a third of the component of something is one attribute, I would still describe it as having that attribute.
Well, if there was a glass 2/3 empty, I'd call it pretty empty.
Yeah, but I'd still say it has water in it.
It has water in it, but it's a lot of scruff.
Yeah, it's a lot of empty, but it's still got water in it. Still some Cub. Still a bunch of Cub.
It's so nice that after all these years, we can still find stuff to argue about that has no purpose.
Truly none. Boy, people sure have been knocking this movie. I personally thought it was hilarious. I loved it. I don't know what other people were expecting. I mean, glance at the title. If people are looking for intellectual stimulation and subject for their next Mensa meeting, then no, this movie would not be for them. Derek Richardson and Eric Christian Olsen did a great job. They both had their work cut out for them, and they came through. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
I won't be taking this to the Mensa meeting.
No.
Abby, what was your review?
She was in Mensa, for God's sake.
Mensa.
I felt really conflicted during this rewatch because I was both swarmed with feelings of dread and boredom, but also feelings of nostalgia and remembering what it was like watching this as a kid and remembering that I thought it was funny as a child. So it has some redeeming qualities for me, literally because I have an actual weird enough, like a history with it. I fucking love Dumb and Dumber. But this is an appalling sequel.
Yeah.
And I would never have opted to watch it as an adult because I think I remembered as a child how terrible it was. Like, it's not like I really do have fond memories of it. I just remember laughing at it. And then I think I must have grown out of it. Maybe I rented it from Blockbuster and I was like, oh, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Look, I'll give it it looks like a film and it has some funny actors in it and some bits. So there were some bits that I laughed at. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
A 4?
Yeah,
wow.
I'm feeling generous.
Wow.
Feeling generous.
By the way, did I ever tell you that my mum was in Mensa once?
What?
Yeah. When I was like a little kid, she wanted to see if she could join Mensa, and then she joined it, and she was there for like a month, and then she said, and I quote, I don't know, they're just a bunch of idiots, and she left.
Your mum was in Mensa?
Yeah. Well, because she liked the idea. She was like, oh, well, I like intellectual stimulation. It'll be fun to try and get in. And then she really hated everyone who was in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kate St. Clair.
Little fun fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a 3.5 for me. I don't think it's quite, I don't have the childhood nostalgia. You know, I'll say 3.4, so I'm at least at level. I agree with IMDb. They nailed it. It's 3.4.
Yeah.
This is one of those few times where they fully nailed it.
That's true. That is true.
Doesn't have the childhood nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
I do think it's a lot better than many of the other things we've had to watch.
100%.
But I also think 3.4 is relatively high for the bounds of this list.
It is. I think I've given it a 4 for my own memories of it.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think you're allowed to go, hey, I as a kid really enjoyed it, so it clearly has some value.
I enjoyed it to the point that I was quoting it.
Yeah.
So I must have really liked it.
And like I said, I thought that's where the 0.4 is coming from for me, is I'm like, there's definitely some stone cold jokes in this.
Yeah.
It's not funny, but there's funny jokes in it.
Yeah.
3.4.
Nice.
You know what's much higher than a 3.4? Us on social media.
Right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
You can find us on Twitter at RateDescendPod, TikTok at RatingDescending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. We love the emails.
Whoa, I jumped the gun.
Whoa.
We're also on YouTube as well if you want to find your podcast there instead.
Well, you can find us on our own social media. You can find me on, I'm kind of off Twitter right now, but I'll still plug it. On Twitter and Instagram, Michelle.St. and Letterboxd at M.St.
And don't forget to leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a difference.
Wow.
Wow. You too could make a difference in the world.
Wow.
Just with one click of a button.
I can make a difference?
No, not you.
Oh.
No, not you. But they could make a difference in the world.
Oh. That's a happy cry. Well, Abby, that was Dumb and Dumberer When Harry Met Lloyd. What are we watching next week?
Michelle, next week we are watching the 2004 Catwoman.
Oh.
And I'm excited because I've never seen it, but I've always known of it.
Me too.
Not even necessarily as a bad film, just as a film that was around when I was growing up. So I'm keen to watch it.
Well, we can rank the Catwomen. Because now, because I watched Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns for our Batman and Robin, and then of course there is Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, and then there's Eartha Kitt.
And of course there's Eartha Kitt
played one ages ago.
Yes.
There has been a lot of Catwomen.
There's been a lot of Catwomen.
I think Eartha Kitt already wins for me. I haven't seen many of them,
fair.
but I reckon it would be Eartha Kitt.
I think it's a pretty easy list, to be honest.
Yeah.
Pretty uncontroversial.
Although I do like Michelle Pfeiffer. It doesn't matter. Look, you'll see us.
Michelle Pfeiffer would be second.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think they'd be close. And then Anne Hathaway, because she did a good job, but it's not a great movie.
And then possibly Halle Berry. I haven't even seen it yet, and we're ranking it.
Whoa. Let's not jump our horses here.
Well, I'll see you next week to rank women. That's not misogynistic. Michelle.
God damn it.
That's so fucked.
God damn it.
I would never.
God, you rank
do you
women
hear
all the
yourself?
time.
Do you hear yourself right now?
God damn it.
I've never ranked women.
That's not
I
true.
love women, and I respect them.
That's not true.